And we're recording. Thank you, Ben, for being down to do this. This is awesome. We're here.
No worries, man.
We're here at your studio. Does it have a name?
Yeah, we call it Poolside.
Okay, that's what
Poolside recording.
That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. I just wanted to get confirmation on that.
Yeah, because we have the pool out there, which I might use later since it's so fucking hot.
Yeah, we're going through this crazy heat wave in Southern California right now, which is, God, like I felt like going through summer was like, all right, like I hate summer. It was hot, but like we're about to get out of it. But then here comes like this last minute heat wave, which sucks. Yeah. So
it's kind of humid too.
Yeah, it's really weird weather. But
dude, it feels like it's like Texas out there right now. Maybe not as bad as Texas, but
this is the worst it's been all summer, which is like really strange.
Exactly.
But okay. Well, we're here. You know, I was so excited to, ask you to do this because we talked about doing this months ago.
We did.
Yeah, right. We were outside program, and you had told me about Stateside getting signed, but it wasn't public yet. And honestly, like when you told me that, I was like very proud of you guys because obviously I think all of you guys are super talented, and I'm just finally happy that you guys are getting like recognition for your talents. Because obviously, I was a fan of Take It to Heart, but to see Stateside kind of just take it to a whole nother level, I'm just really stoked for you guys.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It's been a fun ride so far, and I'm really proud of like what we've been able to accomplish. And you know, it doesn't even feel that long. It's kind of surreal. It's only been a couple years. But yeah, I mean, I'm, really excited to see what we do next as well.
And can you take it back to when you guys got approached by Pure Noise? Can you break down how that all came together?
Yeah, that was pretty much after the trio tour, the triple headliner that we did 2 weeks of it in the spring, and there were some Pure Noise reps and some management people from the other bands who took notice of us and, really liked what we were doing, saw the vision, and there were kind of enough avenues of us getting in Pure Noise, their ears, to where they reached out, Jake reached out and, expressed interest in having us on. And it took a little bit to get everything up and running, as it does. There's a lot of back and forth and about specifics and details of what that would look like. But everything came together really well, and I'm happy it did.
Yeah. Do you think this opportunity would have came if you didn't do that tour?
Maybe, but probably later on.
Okay.
I think that tour was pretty critical for us, at least this year, in making things happen this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy we did that tour and that it went as well as it did, which it went really well for us and the rest of the band. So.
Yeah, I got to catch you guys in Louisville.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, for LDB, which I was always thinking like, okay, the whole tour package is playing LDB. Like, why would they leave off like just one band? And I get it, Fest, a lot of bands are already booked, so there's not a lot of like spare time because you got to keep things moving. But I remember when I was at LDB and I heard that you guys were playing, I was like, oh, that's really awesome. I'm happy that it actually worked out and you guys got to play. because just like because a lot of my friends, they know about you guys just because I always post about you guys on the internet. So I was happy that you guys just got to play in front of a lot of people who probably hadn't seen you guys or even heard you guys at that point.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like you said, it's like we initially weren't supposed to play. I think just because there's just a lot of other bands on, and but we worked it out. Colin actually asked us if we wanted to play. He said, if we can carve out a little bit of time for you guys, would you guys want to do it? And we said, yeah, of course. Like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So the rest of the tour, Koyo, Anxious, and One Step Closer agreed to take off like 5 minutes of their changeover, which gave us a 15-minute set. And he pretty much was like, hey, if the rest of the bands agree to this, then you guys can have that and just play a really short set, and we could do that. And we're like, fuck yeah, we'll do it. So everyone agreed. It happened, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's really awesome that all those bands you just named, were in support of you guys and were willing to give up that time to have you guys hit the stage, because I feel like that speaks a lot. Because if you look at Koyo, they're about to go on tour with The Story So Far, right?
Yeah.
Like they keep on getting bigger. One step
Congrats
closer.
to them. It's
yeah,
fucking huge.
Yeah, shout out Long Island. And then One Step Closer, they're about to go on tour with 4 Years Strong. And then Anxious, following them on social media, it seems like they're cooking up, about to put out some new stuff. So like the trajectory of like those bands, and like they're kind of like getting to like the next level, like getting just like continually getting bigger. And then I just feel like you guys are just kind of like following that same path, because going back a couple of years, like all those bands toured together. Fast forward to now, they're all bigger. So I feel like you guys going out with them definitely like helped out a lot and was definitely a good look. And it seems like from that tour, like I said, you guys are following that same path. You guys got signed. You guys are about to do another full US, and this just keeps getting bigger and better for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I mean, I'm really happy that's where it happened. It's kind of just like a perfect block of like this new wave of emo and pop punk stuff that's coming out of hardcore by hardcore kids. Like we're very much in that world, and I mean, inspired by those bands, and like I think it was just that was just like a perfect 4-band bill, all of those nights. But yeah, I mean, again, like congratulations to all those bands. I mean, they're all good friends of ours, and we're stoked to see the stuff that they're doing. Like Sorry So Far, they put out that fucking new record. It's awesome. So
Dude, they sell that record in Target. Like
exactly, yeah.
When I'm like on the music section in Target looking at K-pop, and then I see Sorry So Far, it always just like trips me out. But I'll see like super stoked for those guys, because that band is I feel like consistently been good. I love their whole discography.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Absolutely. Sorry So Far. I mean, a lot of the newer pop punk bands actually I feel like I just never got into as much. Not because I didn't like it. I mean, I really like early Story So Far, like What You Don't See, and that era. But I feel like my main interest was always like 10 years prior, like the early 2000s stuff.
For sure.
And also when the kind of newer wave of pop punk was coming out, I was in high school, and I was really into like thrash metal and like 80s punk and hardcore. So I was like, oh, this fucking pop punk shit. So like it kind of missed me, and then I'm just now getting back into that era. But Story So Far is solid. The new record is really, really good. Really, really good. I think it checks all the boxes for me, at least, in terms of like what I want out of a pop punk record. So, and to see them, obviously it's done really well for them.
100%.
Really, really well.
Yeah, for me growing up and like listening to pop punk, right? I love like drive-through records, stuff like that. these newer pop punk bands, they're like competing with like bands like Newfound Glory, The Starting Line, because that stuff like to this day is still in my like current rotation. Like I probably listen to
Absolutely.
Newfound Glory and The Starting Line like almost every day. But when bands like No Pressure, Koyo, you guys come out, I'm like, oh shit, like these bands are like breaking into my rotation. Like I'm cutting back on the stuff that I've been listening to for 10, 20 years because like that's like how much I like stateside Koyo and No Pressure.
Yeah.
So like to me like it's just like so refreshing to be here in like 2024 and there's like new bands that in my opinion are like competing with like like literally like the classics.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting to see. It's kind of like that 20-year cycle. I feel like it happens in hardcore. Or people are always looking back. It feels about 15, 20 years to what was going on and trying to revitalize that. And I think there's a focus now on like the pop punk stuff, which is really cool because that's what I grew up with. I've been a huge Fall Out Boy fan since I was maybe 10 or 11, and like to see people create music that's kind of in that world. Now that I'm older and I don't know, it's really fun. It like makes me feel good, and like the like child inside of me is like really stoked for it as well. It's awesome.
It's always interesting that like hardcore kids make the best pop punk music, but I've always wondered like why can't pop punk kids make good hardcore music?
I feel like that's so true, and I've had so many conversations about that with different people, and I think it all comes down to like the DIY aspect of it. Because I mean, if you think about hardcore, it's like the foundation of hardcore is like doing shit yourself. It's like the DIY ethic, and I feel like that has like a sort of genuine authenticity to it.
Okay.
That's kind of baked in. And so when you're into hardcore, when you move on and do other sorts of projects, that authenticity still stays. Whereas like in the reverse, I mean, it's kind of a gamble whether it will be. Like hardcore made by kids who grew up on pop punk, I don't know. It typically, at least to me, like comes off kind of corny and like not really like, oh, these kids like don't really get what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's just like this like layer where it's just like okay, like it's cool to some people, but like the general like hardcore community like kind of like can see through like the fact that it's not like made by like legit hardcore kids, or like it just seems like they're not really like respecting the culture for some reason. Because like I literally can't think of a hardcore band that is good and beloved that was made by pop punk kids. Like I sat and thought about it, but I just can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's not a lot of examples. I mean, I feel like for that sort of thing, it's more like bands from like the mid and late 2000s that like let's say metalcore, where you're like two generations removed from the hardcore. It's
Okay.
like you have metalcore made by hardcore kids. I mean, we're talking early 2000s, like Poison the Well and Bleeding Through, and then you have the next generation who comes up listening to them, and that's like maybe the late 2000s Trustkill bands like Bullet for My Valentine, and still really solid. And then you have the third generation which comes up listening to the second, and then now you have like scene stuff from the early 2010s, and it's like this is lost. This is like, by this point it's like a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox, and it's like lost the the roots of what was going on. It's hardcore, maybe by Pop Punk Kids. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of those bands like easy core stuff, like Chunk, No Captain Chunk, where it's like they were doing that kind of really polished pop punk, but then they would inject like hardcore breakdowns, and you're like, I don't know if this really works. It's probably an example, but
yeah, I was never into them. I was always just blown away about how popular they were, because I was just like, who listens to this? Like, and this is like actually their favorite band. Like, no, just to them. I don't know them, but like I would just like like I saw them once at Chain Reaction, and it was insane.
They're from France, right?
I thought they were from Canada.
Really?
I thought they were like French Canadians. Maybe.
French, okay.
Yeah, I think
I knew that there was some like a French aspect, but I don't. Yeah, either France itself or French Canada, but like Quebec, but yeah, crazy. I remember hearing about them in high school, but like I said back then, I was into very different music. So I was like, I was looking at that band, like, what the fuck is this?
So high school, you're listening. Like you mentioned, like more like thrash stuff. When do you get onto like the more like emo stuff and pop punk stuff?
Well, see, what's funny is that at the same time I was into that, I was really into Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
But Fall Out Boy was like the one exception.
Okay.
Because they were, I think, one of the first bands that I really fell in love with when I was, like a tween. And then, so they were always in there. And then later on came the thrash metal and the punk and all of that when I was maybe 14, 15. Like I was really into Megadeth, like all the Big Four stuff, Testament, Sepultura, and then I found all of the 80s hardcore stuff that was going on at the same time. I mean, Cro-Mags, Gorilla Biscuits, Agnostic Front, Youth of Today. But then Fall Out Boy was still there, and like we said, a lot of this emo stuff ended up coming out of hardcore. So I feel like it circled back. Okay. And the more I learned about hardcore, I found all of these bands who later came out of hardcore, like in the 90s and 2000s. So it kind of came full circle in a way.
Yeah, because like Fall Out Boy, they're all hardcore dudes.
Which was really, really cool to me when I figured that out. That like blew my mind genuinely. That like, one of the biggest rock bands on earth, those dudes came out of the same world that I'm living in. In terms of like a music subculture. Yeah.
And they definitely still pay attention, because there was like a picture floating around of Pete Wentz wearing like a Mind Force hat.
Yeah. Patrick Stump.
It was Patrick Stump, not Pete Wentz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like he shouted out Zulu on I think in an interview.
Okay.
A year or two ago. Pete Wentz. There was I showed a video of him. Not a video. It was a picture of him in the Day of Suffering shirt.
Okay. So maybe do you think they've heard of Stateside?
I would say it's very likely.
Yeah, same here.
Very likely.
Yeah.
Very likely. Would be very, interested in hearing their thoughts, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it is interesting when celebrities, like for them, I'm not surprised seeing them in like hardcore merch, but when like, there was like that picture of Travis Scott wearing that Judge shirt, and he hasn't been like the first like, super celebrity to be wearing like hardcore merch. Like there was like back in the day, there's a picture of like Rihanna wearing a Hoods shirt. That stuff just blows my mind because I'm just like, how does that even happen? Obviously, like I'm assuming it's like one of their stylists just maybe like
Yeah.
picked something up from like a vintage store, or maybe there's like an undercover like hardcore kid like, being like, hey, like I'm gonna just like style them with this to shout out the hardcore scene, but can't really promote it.
Yeah, the Travis Scott one, I think is definitely a case of just kind of like the vintage thing going on. Like
Okay.
it's old, so I'm gonna wear something that's old. I've seen it happen a few times. It's like Justin Bieber and like Megadeth t-shirts, and I'm like, there's no way he likes Megadeth. I'm trying to think. I mean, Will Smith was like in with Bury Your Dead in like the mid 2000s. He was like on stage. It was like a Warped Tour. It's a video of Warped Tour, I think 2006, where he's like, he's like on stage doing vocals with them. It's like, what the fuck? How does that happen?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that like back in DMX was at like a Beautiful One show, and they used to do that like fest in LA, like Nature's World, where they would like
Yeah.
like Soldier Boy was like on stage. I remember there was like a big thing like, why didn't anybody beat him up? But it's like, dude, he's just a dude at a hardcore show. But they're like, no, like like millionaires like that don't belong in hardcore. I remember reading the story. I'm pretty sure it's like the
Yeah.
B9. Yeah, people were like pissed off that nobody beat him up.
Yeah.
But celebrities in hardcore is like always.
And then again, it's like there's more crossover than people would like to think.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not with Soldier Boy specifically. I mean, highly doubted. But there are, I remember reading about some instances where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't, I never would have guessed.
Yeah, for sure. Because as underground as hardcore is, like it's still pretty popular, especially in this day and age with like the internet.
Yeah, it's like as popular now, I think, as it ever has been.
100%.
With that.
Yeah, because if you look at bands like Turnstile, they were on tour with Blink-182. That's like insane to look back on, and bands like Scowl and Drain, like some of the biggest bands. And you mentioned Zulu getting mentioned by Patrick Stump in an interview. Yeah, hardcore is pretty popular.
Which is it's fucking crazy to me. And more just like this community that I'm a part of. It feels so kind of small and tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like you zoom out and you realize, where that fits in with the rest of like the music culture. You're like, damn, I mean, this does get some fucking recognition from time to time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Because like we live and breathe this, and sometimes to step back and think about how big it actually is definitely a trip.
Yeah, I mean, for years, I mean, it's like even Hatebreed, Connecticut hardcore, and then they went on to become almost like a household name in terms of heavy music. Like there are, like coworkers I've had and stuff, and it's like, we'll talk about music and they won't really know, but then I'll drop like, oh, Hatebreed, and they're like, oh, dude, of course. Mm-hmm. And they like kind of, mainstream metal. I mean, and then you see who Hatebreed tours with, and it's like, the biggest fucking metal bands. You're like, hardcore is kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
In a sense.
No, for sure. Like when I talk to people in like, like outside of like hardcore, like mention people, oh, like I'm going on vacation. I'm going to Louisville for a music fest. And they're like, oh, like what kind of music? And I always use Hatebreed because it's like, okay, like if you know who Hatebreed is, then you'll kind of understand. But if you don't, then I'm just not even going to bother because it's just, I was like, I don't want to explain hardcore to somebody that doesn't know about it,
right?
Especially in like a small social setting where it's just like very short conversation. So it's just like, yeah, it's just too much to talk about. So it's like if they don't know Hatebreed, I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just
It can get awkward fast
Yeah.
when you have to explain what hardcore is to someone who doesn't.
Yeah, because to me, I think it's funny when they're like, "Oh, that sounds like devil worshipping music," and I'm just like, I don't think so. But all right, if that's what you hear,
Yeah, I definitely had a couple of encounters like that.
Yeah.
It's always like, all right,
yeah,
we're not on the same page. We're never
Exactly.
going to be on the same page.
Yeah, and that's completely fine because hardcore is not for everybody. So that's why I just kind of like and I'm not trying to be like a gatekeeper, but it's like I'm not gonna invite my like middle-aged coworker to get into
Yeah.
hardcore. It's like if they don't know about it now, it's like they probably never will, or they were never supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny though is that like it's pretty, it's pretty clean generally in the sense that like a lot of hardcore came out of, or at least has its roots in like youth crew in the late 80s. Like that movement kind of spawns like a lot of the beginnings of like what modern hardcore came out to be. And then that was like obviously rejecting the sort of punk ideals and going with the more straight edge ethics. And I mean, it's like you look at youth of today in the fucking late 80s and they're just dressed like jocks. Like, I mean, they have fucking Jordans and, cut off t-shirts and gray hoodies, sports hoodies. And they look like just some average fucking guys.
Yeah.
Like they're not dressed in bullet belts and
No
tight,
mohawks.
mohawks and like tight pants and shit like metal guys. They're not dressed in leather jackets like the punk guys. They're just dressed like, I don't know, a normal guy you'd see at the gym. So it's, I don't know, don't judge the book by its cover.
100%.
I would say, but then if you're a middle-aged mom, then screaming music all sounds the same. So what do I know?
Yeah, it took my mom years to be okay with me going to hardcore shows because I was like, I was like 15 going, out of town with like older strangers that she didn't know. She's like, who are all these like older tattooed freaks like picking you up, dropping you off back at home at like 3 a.m. Like she thought I was out, committing crimes and stuff. But it wasn't until she realized that, oh no, he's just into this weird music and he's not committing crimes. So it took her for like a while to like be okay with it. Because I was always, safe and never really got in trouble, never,
Right.
Brought anything home. So yeah, it can be strange, but obviously for us who've been in it for a while, it's just normal.
Yeah, dude, my mom was the same way. I mean, still to this day, she doesn't get it. And that's fine. I mean, I would never expect her to, but I just like I'll mention what it's about or like show her clips of music, and she's like, "Why are they screaming? What are they so mad about?" And like, why, the moshing, of course, always looks very suspect to like outside people.
Yeah, it's like, oh, are they fighting? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, it just looks crazy, but it's way more controlled than you would think.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like my dad, he doesn't really get hardcore, but he likes that I'm straight edge. Like he doesn't really understand why someone would want to listen to a breakdown, but he's like, well, I mean, I've told him about what straight edge is, and he knows it means a lot to me, and he understands that it's like a positive thing, and I think he can appreciate that, and I'm glad that he does.
Yeah, I remember the first time trying to explain straight edge to my mom because my first tattoo, I have straight edge across my chest right here, And I remember she saw it, and I was trying to hide it from her for the longest time because like this was back when like if you got a tattoo, she like like people like you thought you were like a criminal or like trouble. So she thought like, oh my god, like your life's ruined. And she's like, what does that even mean? And I explained it to her. She's like that's cool. But like, why don't you get dummy tattooed on you? Because you're a dummy. And I was just like, yeah. So she was just like so frustrated. But like obviously like years later, she's like happy because like she watches like the Lifetime channel. She's always like her mind got poisoned because she thought that I was gonna turn out like a Lifetime like troubled kid who was gonna like start punching holes in the wall and killing people.
Yeah.
But when years later, she realized, oh, that was just me consuming too much crazy TV. My son's actually just like a normal dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fucking... I don't think of myself as anything other than normal. I mean, obviously hardcore is not like a normal thing, and being in a touring band is not normal, but I don't know. I feel like being straight edge, it's like your kind of morals and ethics are... They're not that outside... Well, I guess in terms of like modern culture with like partying and stuff, it is pretty strange, and there's definitely... I feel like there's always like another Twitter discourse thread or something going around, or fucking Barstool people are like, how do you even have fun if you don't drink? Or some fucking bullshit. But
yeah, it's a weird question.
I don't know. It's like once you get past the tattoos and the dark clothing and the piercings, it's like, most of these people are like pretty normal. They just like really aggressive music.
Yeah. And yeah, being straight edge, I've been straight edge for so long. It's like not even like something that I have to think about because I remember being younger, kids like people that I was around would always be like, "How are you going to be straight edge forever? Like that's not real." And I would put myself in situations where like, oh, like let's go to a party, and I'm like, oh, I want to hang out, but it's going to be boring. But this is better than just like being at home. So like be at parties and people would try to get you to break edge and it's just stupid stuff like that, and it's like, dude, like I'm not even tempted. Like when I decided to claim straight edge, like I was listening to like Throwdown and I was like, this is like this actually means something to me.
Right.
So like yeah, like I'm never gonna break edge.
Yeah, I don't feel. It's been I think almost 8 years for me. It's been 7 or 8 years at the end of this year, and I didn't consume a lot of substances before. It wasn't like I was, trying to, defeat an addiction or like, put the final nail in and be like, okay, I'm swearing off this shit forever. I'm going to turn a new page. Like I never really, I mean, I smoked weed and I drank a little bit in high school. I had a vape. Because it was the time when like mods were really big. Okay. And I did that, but it was pretty casual. I never had a problem with it, like a serious problem. So I realized that stuff really didn't do anything for me, and it wasn't what I wanted to be doing, and it was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I found out what straight edge was, and wow, it's fucking perfect. I've already, thought about this for years. It's already been kind of my mindset, So.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you about the full U.S. tour that you guys just wrapped up on. Sure. How was it overall? Because you guys went out. The headliner was "See You Space Cowboy," correct? Yeah. And I was always just curious because. Obviously sonically two different sounds, and I was just curious if like stateside fans were actually gonna like come out to like this tour to support you guys, or if it was just gonna be mainly like new fans like discovering you guys because they were there to see the other bands.
It was mainly the latter because we were the first band on the bill. Okay. Actually, that's not true. We were usually the second. Okay. because there were regional support for regional support bands for the entire tour, which was a really good idea. But yeah, it was mainly Space Cowboy and like Callous Cowboy fans that were seeing us for the first time, and you know, so we were kind of fresh to them. There were some kids that came out that had seen us with on the trio tour,
Okay.
which was really cool because we'd, you know, maybe in a city see like a couple heads in the front who knew all the words, and we're like, that's crazy.
Okay.
And then later on would come to figure out that they saw us before and became fans of us on the last tour, and subsequently, you know, learned the songs. And that was really nice. It's always really nice to see people come back out. But it was mainly, I think, us being exposed to a new crowd every night. It was,
I feel like that's the best way to get new fans is just hitting the road, right? Because
Yeah.
you never know who's going to show up that night, right? Because obviously, I feel like most people like more than one genre of music. So, you know, they might show up because they're, you know, super fans of Sea Space Cowboy, but also like pop punk and might not even be aware. And then, you know, they show up, see you guys, and like, holy shit, like I didn't even know this band was a thing. And now you got a new fan.
yeah, absolutely. I'd say, I mean, that's like typically how it goes. You know, there were definitely, you know, people who came up to the merch table every night and had comments pretty similar, like, you know, holy shit, I wasn't expecting that at all, but it was, you know, really cool to see a pop punk band in this setting, and, you know, things like that. Definitely, I think I went into that tour expecting a little bit more crossover between like the kind of new wave of scene kids who really like Space Cowboy, and then like pop punk fandom. Because I feel like in my head I was like, oh, these kids probably grew up on like MCR and Paramore and Fall Out Boy, and so they'll probably appreciate what we're doing. But I think that number was less in reality than what I was expecting personally. I mean, we still obviously had like a ton of fun, but there were definitely some nights where the crowd was definitely enjoying what we were doing, but kind of like, I don't really know what to do with this. Like, I like what's going on, but I don't really know how to like dance to this or vibe with it.
Yeah. It's because they don't know the words. Once they learn
Yeah,
the
it's
words, I
true.
feel like that's where all the fun can be had.
But we're also not moshy. I mean,
Yeah.
stateside, probably we have like one part in the whole discography that you can mosh to in the hardcore sense, like a spin kick mosh part in Crash Course.
Yeah.
And it's pretty brief, but it's mainly just like high energy, you know, rock stuff. And it's so if you're like a 16-year-old kid and you're going to the metalcore show and you want to mosh a lot, I mean, you know, watching Stateside is probably going to be, we're not going to give you a lot of mosh parts.
Yeah.
So
it's a different form of energy.
yes, exactly.
You got to be. I feel like you guys are, you know, a lot of fun to sing along to, but then also like stage diving. That's where like, you know, kids could, you know, get crazy.
Yeah.
But also there has to be a stage.
I was just having this conversation, I think with Eric and Lemus, how this kind of newer crop of kids who got into this kind of music after COVID through maybe TikTok,
Yeah.
like they really don't like stage diving. They're not stage divers. They're not moshers. Like they don't move physically the same way. Like they'll, you know, the stage diver will come and they'll like move out of the way. They're not gonna catch them.
Yeah, they're not staying in the landing zone. They're just like, holy shit, there's a human about to crush me. Let me get out of the way.
It is what it is. I mean, I get it. It's the natural instinct is to move out of the way, but catch someone. You know what I mean? Like, fucking just stand there. Just put your arms up. Like, if there's 4 of you, I mean, where's that person gonna go? They're not gonna bring you down. Mm-hmm. Like, you know.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it's like I'm only gonna stage dive if it's like a hella packed show where, there's not a whole lot of space to move, because I've had some nasty falls where people just just spread and I just like hit the concrete. Like the worst dive I've ever had was like Sound and Fury, like 2011. Focus Minds from Milwaukee. They were covering Righteous Jams. I think they were covering Iron Mind.
Nice.
And I just lost my shit. I was like, okay, this is like so sick. And I remember I got on stage, and this was at the Earl Warren Showgrounds, and like the stage was fucking high.
Yeah.
And I remember I just got on stage, I ran across the stage as fast as I could, and I just jumped as high as I could, and I did a front flip. And I remember everybody moved. I hit the concrete, and I like landed on like my side, and I swear I broke my arm. But I just like probably like bruised it really bad because it was like super like tingly, and like I was like done for like the rest of the day. I was like, that sucked. Dude. Wish I would have never done that, dude. It hurt so bad.
That's why I don't stage dive. I think I've only done it once in my life.
Okay.
It was, dude, back when I was 16, I saw the Subhumans.
Okay.
In Denver, and I stage dive, and I like landed on a girl, and I think I didn't know how to stage dive, so I kind of like just cannonballed off the stage, and my like ass landed on this girl and like brought her down to the floor, and I remember I just jumped up and like ran back to my friends, but I remember I looked over and she like was like running out and was like bloody, and I was like, fuck. I felt really bad. But anyways, I don't stage dive because I've heard way too many stories of people getting hurt like that, and I don't know, man. I think about it and I'm like, I really want to do that, but I don't want to hit the floor, and I don't want to, feel people's hands all over my body if they catch me. That also weirds me out.
Yeah. I feel like when you stage dive, like you're, obviously putting yourself in a lot of danger. Obviously, like, you're going to be maybe hurting some people, but obviously, like, there's a very good risk of you, losing your keys or your wallet. That's something that's always happened to me. Like, I always have to put everything like in my front pockets if I'm going to stage dive.
Yeah.
Because anything in my back pockets always like falls out.
Yep. That's I started really liking cargo pants for that reason.
Okay.
Even on this last tour, I wore these pair of pants like almost every single day, and even playing, I would just put shit in the front. Mm-hmm. Because when you're jumping around on stage, I mean, shit'll fly out, and you'll fucking lose your, keys or your laminate or whatever. But
so, did you have a favorite date of the full US that you guys just wrapped up?
Yeah, so it was definitely Chain.
Okay.
The hometown, the last show was, that was definitely the peak of it, and I'm glad it was. I'm glad it kind of went out on the highest note it could have. Mm-hmm. Because that just blew my mind. I'm like, I'm playing a good Chain show. Because I've seen a lot of like mid sets at Chain, and I was wondering in my head how it was gonna be, and then I'm up there and there's like just energy the whole time. Everybody knows the words. They're stage diving the whole set. I'm like, this is like a good Chain set. That was awesome. But in terms of like out of town I really liked Chicago. That was fun. There were a lot of kids from Springfields who came up. Shout out Springfield Hardcore. Like they came up and, were dancing and knew the words and helped kind of inject a lot of energy into the room. And that was fun. And I was also really happy to play Chicago just, because of Fall Out Boy. Like it's always been a city and kind of scene that's influenced me. So
Did you guys
like a full circle thing?
Did you guys cover Fall Out Boy while you were in Chicago?
We did not.
Oh, okay.
That would have been a little bit too on the nose, I feel like. Maybe not, but we generally don't do that. Like cover like if we're out of town, cover the band who's from that town. I mean, it does make sense, but it's also like, it's a little corny.
Yeah, but I feel like you guys do a good job at covering Fall Out Boy
Thank
just
you.
in general. So, and obviously you've seen the reactions. Like everybody loves those covers. So,
yeah, I mean, I love playing them. We've done Dead on Arrival. We've done Chicago. Is So 2 years ago. We've done the Thriller intro a few times. It always goes over well. I mean, Fall Out Boy, especially Take This to Your Grave, is like held in really high regard among hardcore kids.
dude, that's like that album's like no skips for me. Like I can listen to
absolutely.
that. Yeah,
I mean, my favorite will always be Cork Tree.
Okay.
But Take This to Your Grave is a very close second. And I feel like, also to add, hardcore kids who they don't like the rest of the discography, but they love Take This to Your Grave. I've heard that opinion a few times where they're like, yeah, I don't really, I really like the Blue album, but the rest of it kind of misses me. But the first record they put out is like really, really good.
Yeah, like I Take This to Your Grave from Under the Cork Tree, and then everything else after that wasn't my favorite, but Fall Out Boy as a band had such an impact on me as like a teenager that I just, out of respect, I just kind of like listened to everything that they put out. Like I still follow their career.
Yeah, I've listened to I think everything they've put out at this point. It's the same way. I try to keep up. I listen to pretty much everything they put out pre-hiatus, like regularly. In fact, I think that Fully Ado is their best record.
Okay.
Like objectively, it's not my favorite, but I think in terms of like in every way you would grade an album in terms of quality, that's their peak. That's their best. I was really into Save Rock and Roll as a teenager. That was really big for me. I don't really visit it nowadays. The stuff after that, I listened to but missed me. I really like the new record. It's solid. It makes me happy that it's like a return to form for them. That they're doing rock music again.
Yeah.
Because they were doing like some sort of electro pop on Mania, which just completely missed me.
Yeah. Part of me always wonders if like, they get like pressure from like their label to like write like that kind of music versus like the current album.
Maybe. I can imagine that it's difficult being a band of their size and trying to stay relevant with current trends. And trying to, manage that, like what people want to hear versus what you want to write. I think I heard from someone, I had this conversation at least a month or two ago where I think in their camp they were divided for some time over whether they wanted to do rock music anymore, but they kind of all agreed on the new record. Like if I recall correctly, they all agreed that they wanted to do a rock album again with the new record, and they teamed up with the old producer, I think who did Cork Tree and Infinity on High, and it definitely is it's solid. I mean, it's not those records, and I don't think anybody would say it is, but shit, I mean, that first single they put out, I was like, holy shit. It was Love from the Other Side. It's like, holy shit, this sounds like a song from 2008. It sounds like it's like just as good as anything they would have put out then, and that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I remember listening to it for the first time and just being surprised. Oh, like I'm not wanting to turn this off. So,
I mean, I feel like, you know, nowadays with a band that size, I mean, that's kind of an achievement in and of itself. I feel like bands get late into their career and they just start, it gets really mixed with the quality. You know what I mean?
yeah, I can imagine like it being really difficult because it's just like you know, just like being an artist, like you don't want to be playing the same stuff, you know, be in the same box for, you know, 20 plus years. Like you want to, you know, kind of do what you want to do, and it might not be what like the majority of your fan base wants to hear, but you know, I'm sure, you know, some people rock with it. But yeah, like I just being a band of that size and still being relevant, like, it's not an easy task, right? Because you know, like so many bands come and go, they don't even like achieve like, you know, like a fraction of what Fall Out Boy has done.
Yeah. I mean, most certainly. I'm trying to think of what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, saying relevant. You know, again, I'm sure it's hard. I was just gonna say, like, you know, once a band gets late to their career, I feel like for me personally, I kind of don't trust the releases. Like you know, I see a band and like I might love their first 3 records and then they continue into the discography and I don't even check it out because I'm like, I just don't trust how good this could be, you know. And that's just me. I mean, I know, you know, for example, like Eric, he with bands he really likes. I mean, he'll keep checking up on the stuff and like listen to all the discography. And I think that's really brave. Because you know, I don't know, it's just like I just like don't trust some bands with like, you know, it's like you can kind of tell what their prime was.
Yeah.
And then it's like 10 years on, and they put a new record, and I'm like, I really don't want to shatter the kind of image that I have of this band in my head.
Yeah,
you know?
because they're like in the twilight of their career, trying to compete with like the golden age of like their discography, and it's really tough, right? Because you know, there's so many bands that I listen to where I'll listen to the newer stuff and it'll just be okay compared to, you know, like the albums like you know, like from the early part, because like I don't know what it is, maybe like there's just like a different probably like level of like hunger because like they're on the come up, right? Like they're like a newer band, they're trying to make it, and I don't know, I don't know why it's like that, but yeah, there's not many bands like, you know, front to back where their discography is, you know, perfect.
But then I will say, bands who are like that, who do have a perfect discography, I feel like they're always hardcore bands. And 9 times out of 10, they were only around for 10 years. Yeah. I feel like there's part of being a band where it's like if you have a career that spans, you know, over 10 years, I mean, it's really hard to not put out to have some misses.
Yeah.
I mean, a band that I think escaped that, who has consistently put out really, really good stuff, is Converge.
Okay.
Like a band that has put out, who has changed but kept solid quality music is Converge. I mean, I feel like, some of their records aren't for me, especially stuff in the last maybe 15 years past No Heroes. It's not really for me, but I can see that there's a lot of effort put in, and they're not just resting on the laurels. They're putting in effort, and it's like it's really cool music. And it might not be what I want to listen to, but I can still appreciate, again, the effort that has gone in and all of that. I don't know if you really into Converge, Jamie, but
Not really my cup of tea, but I can respect, that they did pave the way for a lot of, like, my favorite bands, and still, like, to this day, like, they're still a big band.
yeah, I mean, they still play like fucking huge. They're still relatively popular. And I mean, I feel like they've graduated hardcore in a sense. Like they're kind of just like a noise metal band at this point. They don't like, they're not playing hardcore festivals really anymore. They play like big metal. I feel like the average Converge fan nowadays is like 35 or 40 and has like an IPA and is wearing a black denim jacket and
Has the Jane Doe patch.
exactly. But regardless, I mean, they're still pushing, I think, boundaries. I think there's some bands that just naturally do that. Their entire career is like they set a precedent and they set a boundary and then they break it again. And I think Converge is like a good example of that.
Yeah, because they've had a long career and they're still going.
And they still bring it. I mean, I haven't had the chance to see them, but they, people who have seen them even in the past couple of years say that's, holy shit, that was incredible.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw Converge was, I want to say maybe 2012 or 2013, and they played the Glass House and it was sold out.
Exactly.
And here we are in 2024 and they're still at it. So
yeah.
Want to ask about stateside, that you guys are about to do another full U.S. tour in the fall.
Yes.
Can you talk about who it's with and how that came together?
Yeah, so it's with Broadside, Bearings, and Unwell. And how it came together. I believe it was our booking agent, Alex Martin. He pitched us for that tour. Like, he was really, really, working to get us on that tour. We originally were going to do something with those bands, I think in the summer, and then it fell through. But then we were able to make it happen later in the fall. And I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, that's like, damn, 2 full U.S. tours, like, towards the end, or like, the later half of the year. I think that's awesome. And do you enjoy being out on the road for, like, those extended, like, periods of time? Because in like the hardcore realm, it's not common for a hardcore band to be on the road for that long. It's more like, weekenders or regional stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love it. The guys in Stateside are like my best friends, and every day being on tour, it's like the highlight of my day is playing the set. So, like, I'm out in the world with like my best friends playing music that I really love. I mean, it's pretty much perfect. There are downsides. I mean, it's really taxing touring. it is, in a sense, it is like work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's, getting up at 8 a.m. to do, a 6-hour drive, or like earlier, getting up 6, 7, 8 a.m. and you got to drive all day to make it on time to load in. I mean, it's, it doesn't feel good getting up at 6 a.m. after like 4 hours of sleep on a hardwood floor, but it is very fulfilling at the end of the day when you get to play the set and it goes over well and you have a lot of fun. And it's just like a really fulfilling thing to do, especially when it's like off of music that you've created. I mean, stateside, we've written all of our music literally right here, like where we're sitting, like jamming it out in this room. So like to be able to take what we've done here around the United States, it kind of just blows my mind. And I mean, we're just trying to tour, honestly, as much as possible. If we could spend like 6 months out of the year on the road, I mean, that'd be ideal.
Mm-hmm. And do you guys have anything lined up between now and the fall tour?
No, there might have been a couple shows that we got asked to play, but I think we might have had to drop them. Or not us dropping, maybe they fell through. I'm thinking back a few months ago, but I can't think of anything on the books right now that we have between now and then. We're honestly just trying to just write music, because we're gearing up to record more at the end of the year, beginning of next year.
Okay. And is that for a full length or an EP?
Yeah, it'd be for a full length.
Interesting. Okay. Because you guys finally released those, 3 new songs, and they can get the vinyl through NMZ still?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we put out 30 Mile, and there's still one single remaining to be released. But that will be out, I believe, before we go on the tour.
Okay.
In the next couple months, that song's going to come out.
That's awesome. Okay. And is there a different preparation in writing the full length, or have you guys just been like, kind of slowly creating this like along this, journey of the past couple of years?
I mean, it's been really productive, I would say. We've been kind of pumping out the music pretty fast. I think we're just in a really creative spot right now. We all feel inspired. It's like every time we get together, we'll write a new song, and we always walk away and say, wow, this is like the best song we've written so far. Mm-hmm. And then the next time we say the same thing, and I think that's a really like a positive sign. But yeah, I mean, also it's just you're always kind of building on the previous work you've done as well. Like we couldn't have written these new songs without first writing All on Red. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, I'm trying to think of the words, like it's a very involved process, I would say. It's very, so there's a lot of work that goes into it, where you're drawing from like kind of new creativity and the old stuff you've done. Trying to not repeat yourself, but also write things that sound like Stateside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like you guys have done a really great job at that. And also, I feel like, yeah, I can see that you're kind of building off of what you guys have done previously because I feel like with every release, you guys just kind of continue to level up, which,
Thank you.
yeah, which I can clearly tell because listen to the music, and I always tell everybody, I'm like, dude, I can't believe this has gotten better.
Yeah, thank you a lot. I mean, I really appreciate that. It's something personally that I stress over is like, the quality of the new stuff being at least as good as what we've already done. Because I've experienced it, like listening to bands where they put out new stuff. And it's like, wow, this is just not as good as the last EP. And with people's attention spans being so short, I mean, especially on an LP1 is like make or break.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's just like you don't want to. Because like LP1, obviously, it's like it's like a first impression, and if people walk away with like, oh, there's too much filler, or it wasn't that good, it's like good luck trying to get them to come back for LP2.
Yeah, it's LP1's like kind of critical, so we're feeling the pressure, but like I said, I think that the new material we've been working on is genuinely our best yet. Like we've kind of dialed in on what we want to be doing, and we're not retreading, things we've already done, but it's like it sounds like Stateside, and we're kind of we're writing songs now where it's like, okay, they're not just ripping off their favorite bands. I mean, obviously we're still inspired by our favorites, but it sounds distinctly Stateside, which is a goal I think every band should have.
100%. I remember there was a very specific program show, and you guys had played 30 Mile Stretch, and at this point it was like not even released. And I remember after the set, I was like talking to Lemus. I'm like, dude, what was the name of that song? It's like that new song. Like I think like that's it. Like that's like my favorite song. Then I remember he'd sent me the songs before they came out, and I was just like on like I can remember like whatever platform he sent me on. Dropbox. That's how I was drawing a blank. I was just on the Dropbox, just listening to 30 Mile Stretch on repeat, and I was just like, dude, like, I can't wait till this actually comes out, so I don't have to like keep going to like the app or the website to listen to it. And yeah, no, like I said, yeah, I feel like you guys have done a really great job, kind of like kind of just like growing, past like what you've already put out, in a good way.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's always the goal, to just keep growing and keep pushing your own boundaries, for sure.
And have you guys ever performed the acoustic song with Eric singing Pacific Wharf?
Yeah, Wharf Street.
Wharf Street.
We've done it once. It was at the Lodge for the record release.
Okay. How'd that go over? Do you like doing stuff like that, kind of changing the tempo, or do you like to just keep it like high energy?
Well, it went over really good. I think that out of It's What We Do, people do have a love for that track.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been asked a lot to play it since then, but we're not going to.
Why not?
It's just like it doesn't. I think in terms of like a 20 and 30-minute set, we'd rather keep things moving fast.
Okay, for sure.
That's like what we do best, I think, is the high energy stuff. And we'd rather focus on, high energy rock songs rather than like an acoustic ballad. So I think the next time anyone will see that live will be in 9 years for the 10-year anniversary show.
Okay. That's fair. It's something to anticipate, I guess.
But I think there will be one or two songs like that on the next record. Maybe not acoustic, but like a slower, something a little slower and more emotional and more like a ballad. Just for some dynamic interest, you know.
Okay.
Because there is a, you know, if you have 10 songs that are all like at the same level of, they're all up there. I mean, it gets a little exhausting to listen to. So you need to bring it down for a little bit
Okay.
on the track list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And any chance you sing a song like that, or you're just gonna leave that to Eric and Lemus?
I can't sing.
Okay.
You don't want to hear me sing. Yeah, I don't sing. My contributions to Stateside are, I mean, I play bass and I write and, you know, assist with the song arrangement and handle like gear and the technical, you know, when we demo stuff out here, I do the engineering, but you do not hear me on a mic.
Okay. All right. Well, looking forward to all the new Stateside stuff, you know, coming out next year. But as we're wrapping up here, I have to ask you about, you know, you doing hardcore, because I was a huge fan of Sanctify, and I know I've talked to you, and you know, you mentioned that you've been, you know, wanting to do another hardcore band. I'm just curious, is anything like that in the works or happening?
Yeah, I actually have a few bands that are kind of in the works. I'm working on doing like a fast kind of straight edge band with Eric and Cole.
Okay, shout out Cole.
Yeah,
About Face
shout
coming
out.
soon.
Yeah, shout out Cole, About Face, Firestarter, Major Pain. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to do, forever I've been wanting to do like a kind of fast, like Carry On, American Nightmare style band.
Okay.
And I have like 4 songs written right now for a demo. So maybe I'll do, you know, write a couple more and then record it and put it out. There's also some other stuff. I mean, me and Lemus and Pat have been working on like a thrash metal crossover thrash thing, and I have some demos that kind of sound like Foundation. I feel like I always have maybe 3 to 5 extraneous projects that I'm working on that it's a gamble whether they'll see the light of day, but you know, I think everything deserves to be every idea deserves to be on a demo at least. Like, so like it doesn't need to be like a whole band with a career, but it should at least be a demo.
Okay. All right. And then last thing, like, can people hit you up to record here, or is that like more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm like actively looking for more clientele, so
So how should they get in contact with you?
you can just hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram is Crush of the Year _. And yeah, I mean, I try to keep it pretty cheap for, you know, people to come through. I mean, I understand that, like, you know, not everyone has a lot of money to spend on recording, and so I try to keep the prices pretty low and just, you know, deliver good work. And you know, it's pretty simple. That's all.
All right. Well, Ben, this has been awesome. I'm happy that you let me, you know, into the studio to do this today. I'm a huge fan of Stateside, and I hope you guys have you know, continued bright future ahead, because I believe in all you guys.
Thank you, Jamie. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
You've been day one, honestly.
Yeah.
Day one.
I just got to support my friends. That's what it's all about.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Be back soon. All right.